Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited. We have so many amazing things to talk about. It's going to be an engaging dialogue. We're going to get into details and substances. We're going to talk about order management. We're going to talk about order aggregation. We're going to talk about building an incredible menu. So I'm just so pumped to be here. We have two amazing operators joining us. We'll get an intro from them soon. Two incredible technologists and one generalist. That's me. I'm your host for the day because I'm here to learn as much as everyone else in the room. Nabil Alamgir, CEO and co-founder at Lunchbox. So let's get started. But before we kick off, we encourage you to ask questions throughout this call. Please post any in the question tab, and we'll do Q&A at the end, right? And we'll have fun with it. So let's kick it off. So let's go to the next slide, and let's really quickly, with no further ado, introduce our amazing panelists. Let's start with you, Dean.
All right.
Yeah.
Good call on that. Appreciate it. I forgot that we started off muted. Dean Kimball here, Chief Information Officer at Taco Cabana. I've been with the company for 30 plus years now, starting the ID department early in the company's history. During that time, I've seen us go private, public, owned by Carol's Restaurant Group, later publicly traded under Fiesta Restaurant Group with Pollo Tropical. And a little over 2 years ago, Yadav Enterprises acquired Taco Cabana. And during that time, made me the Chief Information Officer for their entire portfolio of restaurants, not just Taco Cabana, which includes franchising Jack in the Box, TGI Fridays, Denny's, Corner Bakeries, as well as a new partnership that we have with Nick the Greek. So I'm very excited to be here. It's something very near and dear to my heart. So look forward to it.
All right, favorite. That's so many different logos, Dean. Is your favorite meal Taco Cabana? Is that what you have to say, or is there a different answer? I don't want to ask tough questions.
As I have told people in the past, I certainly bleed salsa. It's just something that's in my DNA, having been with the company for so long. So I definitely have an affinity for it. But I would be lying if I didn't say I ate at every single one of these on a regular basis. So they're all my favorites.
That's a great job to have. Ben, would love your intro, sir.
Hey, my name is Ben Broussard. I'm the supervisor of restaurant technology at Walk-On Sports Bistro. For those of you not familiar with Walk-Ons, we're celebrating our 20 years this year, and we're opening number 85 on Monday. So we started off in Baton Rouge. It was founded by two walk-ons on the LSU basketball team, hence the name. I've been in the POS space or in the restaurant space for most of my career. I did about 15 years in operations and then moved into the POS world, and then eventually came over to Walk-Ons like 5 years ago.
And what's your favorite menu item on the menu? And is it the boom boom shrimp tacos? Wings?
Anything
wings
buffalo.
Over
Buffalo. Anything buffalo.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Christopher Siefkin, would love your intro next, sir.
Hey, yeah, I'm Chris Siefkin. I lead product and technology for Xenial. We're directly focused at enterprise restaurants and enterprise restaurant brands, some of which Dean operates. And we make point of sale software along with digital menu boards, back office, and outdoor vision-based timing solutions, among other things.
Amazing. Thank you so much for intro. And Christopher, favorite meal out there? What are you eating? One of your customers you love the most?
Gosh, I like Dean. I don't think I could pick a favorite. I don't think that'd be fair, but I do love a good chicken sandwich. So I try to get one of those whenever I can.
I love it. I'll ask. Don't worry. I'll be fair. I'll ask George the same question, and he's gonna have a tough time too. George, would love your intro, sir. My partner in crime here at Lunchbox.
George Istvan, CTO at Lunchbox. Many of you probably know me from. I founded Novodyne back in 2007. Novodyne and Lunchbox merged last year. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Favorite meal, I guess, before you ask me, I would say is, believe it or not, maybe Taco Bell. That's where.
Taco Bell?
That's where,
cool.
Yeah.
While Dean's on the call, that's brave man. Dean, I apologize on behalf of my CTO, or not. You guys are close. Go ahead, George.
No, wait. No apology needed because there is no Taco Cabana in North Carolina, it would be Taco Cabana.
So this
or
is a feedback
Walk-Ons
session.
This
is a Dean.
Yes.
That's a complaint.
Yes.
We're looking for one in North Carolina. Awesome.
Right.
Thank you all for your intros. And You guys are so busy. Thank you all for making some time for us. We were doing some prep and I was just learning so many incredible things from you. I hope the audience feels the same ways and I hope they stay till the end. All right, with that, let's go do a quick teaser of things we'll talk about. We're going to talk about common struggles with menu management. We're going to talk about how to design a menu for marketplaces. What are the things that help you increase sales? We know photos do that. We know description does that. What happens in the back end? How can we increase that, right? We'll talk about maximizing profits and lowering cost. Then we're going to talk about pricing strategies. We're going to spend a lot of time there because that is going to be one that'll be very, very educating for all of us. We're going to talk about menu management at scale, converting third party to first party, and then we'll hang out with all of you for Q&A. Reminder, please ask them so we can collect those questions and ask our incredible panelists here some of the questions from the audience. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay. All right, I love this data here, right? I was asking my team, can you tell us, what are consumers looking at? What decisions? How are they making a decision to order something for tonight, right? Or try out a new restaurant? And my favorite part of this slide is promotion and discount is somewhere in the middle, right? That is not how decisions are being made. It's menu selection, it's menu pricing, it's recommendation from friends and family, it's customer reviews. We'll touch on, Dean and I will touch on that a little bit later as well. So I just want to share this with you and tee up our next slide and jump right into the questions. Let's talk about, these are the reasons why someone makes a decision. On the next slide, we will see the common struggles restaurants face with menu management, designing their menu on third-party sites, right? Some of them are order failures, converting to first party. Some of them are pricing strategies and markup. So we'll touch on all of that. But before that, I just want to share a couple of data that I found absolutely fascinating. And what these data will tell you is we really have to get this right. This is really important to the business. This is not a small margin or a small part of your business. This is new customers, and this is a big portion, double-digit portion of your revenue. So 3 pieces of data I want to share before I jump into questions. Online food ordering has grown faster than dine-in since 2014 by 300%, right? The pandemic has come and gone. Online ordering sales has not, right? Online food ordering accounts of total restaurant sales are up by 40%. And then the third piece of data, 31% of American consumers use third-party food delivery services at least twice a week. I find all of that extremely fascinating. And with that, let me ask the first question to our friend Dean. What's your brand's biggest hurdle in the marketplace management?
So, aside from the technical issues, just like aggregating the menu for your major marketplaces and a POS integration to tightly couple the experience, to eliminate all the tablets and bring all the sales into one reporting process. I honestly believe one of the brand's biggest hurdles is maintaining profitability without pricing our offerings out of the reach for the customer. There's many hidden costs in selling in marketplaces, from customer retention, chargebacks, refunds. These all add costs that are usually not projected up front in the pricing models. So it's critical to understand and manage those to be successful. And it's a significant hurdle to being successful in the marketplace. When the marketplace drivers leave our restaurants, for example, we no longer have control of the experience, our ability to immediately address customer concerns. This is a major issue for both Taco Cabana and our customers. So to be profitable, we really have to address these head on.
Yeah, it's, you want off-premise to be as similar to on-premise as possible, right? Imagine you forgot the sauce in store, right, for the table. You go bring the sauce back and you say sauce is maybe on the house. But if that same thing happens online, Dean, they're asking you to comp the entire meal, right? So it's like the delta is incredible, and now you lost $50 check or basket because of $120 sauce, right? That's, I'm sure you're dealing with this all the time.
Yeah, it's a major concern. While it may seem profitable on top, even with the upcharges and uplifts and all those things, these costs can creep up behind you and really make an impact to the profitability.
Yeah. Ben, let's continue the conversation. Do you see the same at walk-ons? What's your experience like?
Yeah, man, everything that Dean said it resonates with us as well. One of the things we encouraged during the pandemic was for our franchisees to sign up with as many of these third-party delivery services as possible, just to keep the revenue coming in. You want to keep the lights on. I mean, we have big restaurants that are expensive to operate, and we had to pay the bills, but with that, we didn't have national contracts. We didn't have an aggregator at the time. So that means different menus to have to try and keep up with, and having the franchisees trying to set all that up by themselves and get descriptions and get images and make sure that everything's priced correctly. And it was such a pain, and then moving forward into this year, once we got on with Lunchbox with the aggregator, we're able to, make all the menus consistent across all the third-party platforms that are integrated. And it just made life so much easier.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Dean and Ben. Let's get the technology point of view. George, when you built Auto Aggregator, right, what were some of the problems you were trying to solve?
The number one problem that we wanted to solve was simplify menu maintenance, just like Ben was talking about right now. Number two was, of course, improve order accuracy. And three was streamline operations in the kitchen and back of house. So yeah, that's great. Orders are placed, but then what happens after the order actually gets in the system? And then also improve the guest experience and food quality by making sure food's not sitting around and then the driver arrives like 15 minutes late and picks it up and it's cold. And then an easy way to manage price uplift across a brand and also at the restaurant level. And I would say finally, provide a way for the restaurants and the brand to reconcile the third party. Yeah.
Amazing. George, thank you so much for sharing that. Let's stay on the topic a little bit. Let's go to the next slide, right? We have two pieces of data I want to share before I kick off menu building itself, right? Let's talk about the qualities of photos can increase your sales by 65%. That's a low-hanging fruit. No reason we should not all be doing that, right? Your descriptions and quality of those descriptions also can go ahead and trigger a buying decision by another 45%. That's what the consumer is saying, but there's so many things you can even do on the back end to continue to make your menu more appealing to the consumer. So Dean, we talked to you a little bit about what's happening there on the menu configuration. Dean, the question I have is, why is menu configuration so important? How's Taco Cabana handling this at scale?
So yeah, on the menu configuration front, there's so many facets to this question, and why it's so critical and important. Just from the initial setup to the complexities of taking multiple menus and variations across regions and et cetera, and trying to bring them into one platform and one menu. Configuring that, if it's not correct, there's potentials for issues like orders that error going to the POS, different compliance tax regulations not being met. So really, from a configuration standpoint, the more that can be imported from the POS, the more likely the items and the taxing and everything will be configured properly for sending to the POS, and just have that much more success. Something as simple as bottled water or sugary drinks, have vastly different tax implications that are critical to have correct. If you don't, you could be susceptible to fines and potentially lose the ability to operate. So it's extremely critical to have your menu configured properly. But then on top of that, just from the setup side of it and ongoing use of it, you want to allow certain groups of stores like franchisees that would like to configure their own menu availability and pricing, and have it different than a corporate group of stores. Not having an environment that's tightly coupled with the POS can make that management just completely unwieldy, prone to errors, susceptible to compliance and regulatory violations. So without the very fundamentals and basic building blocks of a good menu import, this would all have to be managed manually, like Ben was saying. And without that, you're just talking about manual efforts, potential for error, costly compliance issues. So I think it all starts with that POS integration.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dean, for sharing. George, I got to ask you a tough question. I've been wondering this for the 5 years I've been working at Lunchbox. If you can unmute yourself. The question is, what the heck is nested modifiers? And how do you deal with them? A lot of the complaints I see in the support tickets I see are about nested modifiers. Would love to understand what they are and how do you set them up for success?
Yeah, so a nested modifier, I guess a good way to describe it, the easy way to describe it is it's a modifier of a modifier. So if to use an example, let's say you have a sandwich, you get a choice of sides. If you choose a bag of chips, that's not a nested modifier. But if you get to choose a salad, and then on that salad, you also have to choose a dressing, then that becomes a nested modifier because it's actually a modifier of a modifier. So as far as how to manage them with third-party, menus, if you're building a menu, you have. I would recommend that you keep the level to the depth and the levels to 2, like what I just described, because some of the user interfaces on the third party, some of them can get pretty complex and hard to use and confusing for a user, especially if they're using a mobile device. And also, if you're going to use nested modifiers, make sure that the third party that you're going to be sending your menu to will actually support nested modifiers, because some of them do not. Now, if you are using Lunchbox, by the way, our system handles that for you automatically. When you add a new item, whether it has nested modifiers or it doesn't, even if it has multiple levels of nested modifiers, our system will automatically adjust that menu item to work properly on each marketplace. And then when an order is placed, it'll readjust that item so it'll send to the point of sale properly.
I love that. Ben, I saw you smile there, saw some pain in your eyes. What's happening there? What are you thinking as we talk about nested modifier?
Look, we created our monster of a menu a long time ago, and it was way before we thought about nested modifiers and integrating with third-party platforms. And when we rolled out Lunchbox earlier this year, it was some tears shed. Like, why is this not working? Because, you don't think about all that. But whenever you have so many platforms integrated, you have to think about it end to end.
Yeah.
Or it won't work.
Yeah, absolutely. And you did a lot this year, Ben. You changed your POS, you changed online ordering at the same time, you got a new app at the same time. What's going on? Are you don't want to be home? Because that's a lot of investment in 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, it was the year of the digital revolution for us. So we jumped in with both feet and we changed POS systems, we changed online ordering, we changed aggregator, we changed our website. We just tried to, if we're going to make that big change, let's do it all, and let's get partners that are all going to work together. So that was the important part.
We were happy to be a tiny part of that tech stack. Chris, question to you, sir. Does Xenial offer any best practices in how the menus should differ across different marketplaces?
Yes, we do actually. I would say menu synchronization is a key element, and not every provider, as George mentioned, supports every possible capability that, at least we offer. We know that for sure. And then the complexity of which you offer a customer to order has an impact into, the overall ability for them to, have a seamless experience and the number of conversions you're going to get. So those are kind of key important elements. We offer the ability to price and create menus by order, something we call order source. So you can have a different menu on each different partner that you're integrating with, whether that be your own first party apps or your delivery marketplace. And so, we encourage you to think about how food is going to be delivered and how it's going to be experienced for the customer. You may not want to send an ice cream sundae out, or maybe the fries that you make don't hold very well and you have a different packaging model for that, or you have different concerns that may impact your overall plan as far as what you're actually selling and to whom. And so those are things to consider. And, we try to offer tools that allow you to stratify your offering based on how it will be consumed. So,
yeah. And it's amazing because online ordering company is only as good as the POS it integrates with. So the POS really is the source of truth for all of us here, right? So the fact that you guys have so many different iterations that people can build on top of for all these different marketplaces makes us as a online ordering company's life much easier. So grateful for our integration together, sir.
Now, I think that the tough part about that too is if you start building different menus for each different platform or third party platform or whatever, that's more menus to have to manage. That's if you have to build them differently for each different provider, then that's more training that you have to, you have to teach your kitchen staff how to make it this way versus this way. And it just gets real difficult. So, the benefit of having it integrated with the POS is you have that one menu and all the menu items are alike, but at the same time, you have to think about building it in a way that the guest understands it. Because in restaurant, you can teach your staff how to ring stuff up correctly, but online, you can't teach your guests that.
Well, ideally,
Absolutely.
ideally we provide everybody with a path that works both ways, right? And
Sure.
I think it's important to think about, they may be different menus, if you will, surfaced up, but they're the same items. They're the same, modifiers. They're the same combos. And they're grouped and sorted and managed in such a way that you're not creating extra work for yourself, not duplicating, PLUs, for example, is a really key element of that. And, just like we have the ability to source different menus by different order source, we can also, handle pricing and variations by destination as well. So, there's a lot, I think, already available, and I think a lot more coming, in the coming years and months and so forth.
Nice.
Love that. Love the dialogue, guys. I'm learning so much from you guys. I know George is not learning anything new because he lives here, but I'm learning so much. This is exciting stuff. Let's go to the next slide. Let's talk about menu management a little bit, but more on the technical side of managing menus at scale, right? So, by the way, this is the Walk-Ons app. I love. It was one of my favorite apps, so I just wanted to put it here, show it off. I told them put the Boom Boom Shrimp up front and center, but they didn't. So someone's losing their. I'm just kidding. No one's losing.
The buffalo, man. Look, that buffalo chicken sandwich.
Yeah, we got your buffalo chicken sandwich over here. There you go. Hey, so Dean, how are you leveraging technology to configure and manage menus at the corporate level?
At the corporate level, the most important technology, honestly, that we leverage is a marketplace aggregation provider. I mean, plain and simple. Without something like that, as everybody's kind of iterating through here between multiple regions, multiple variations in menu, and if you end up having more than one POS, you may be rolling out a new POS. All those things kind of multiply the complexity of many factors. And so the more that you can bring it into one menu, one platform, one aggregation, the easier it is to be successful, quite honestly. And so, if you honestly didn't have this, you'd be looking at going to each individual marketplace, manually creating a menu, hoping you got everything right. God forbid that the nested modifiers don't line up with the POS that you're sending to. They may on this one POS, but not on the other POS properly. It just wouldn't work well. I can say that much. And the bigger you are at scale, the harder it is to manage. And the technology that I have to say that is most important for that is a good marketplace aggregation provider.
Love that. Understood. Ben, you lived that life. The life Dean described that was really hard, where you have to create individual menus for individual systems. You lived this life like 12 months ago, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead. Would love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, we were living in a 2 POS environment for half the year this year. We rolled out a new POS system starting in January and finished it in July. At the same time, we were rolling out online ordering with Lunchbox, and it made for some difficult days. But rolling out with that technology helped us reduce labor costs. Getting away from that tablet hell at To Go, where you have all these third-party marketplaces dinging at different times and somebody having to check those orders in and ring them in. And, the To Go people going crazy, just trying to keep up with ringing in orders, much less going bag everything up and get it to the guest. And, I think the guests suffer for that. And so utilizing the aggregator, the orders just flow into the POS and go right into the kitchen. And it's really smoothed things out and made for a better flow in the kitchen. The girls aren't sandbagging, or the team members aren't sandbagging orders, taking a bunch of orders and then slamming the kitchen. It's just a constant flow. And the same thing with we started using handhelds in the dining room so they can spend a little more time at the table. They can order at the table and send it, and go to the next table, order at the table, send it. And so it calmed the kitchen down a whole lot. It makes things just a little bit smoother.
Yeah. And you know, both of you have franchisees and franchisors. George, question for you. When we serve the enterprise restaurants we do, not only are there different level of ownership like franchisees, franchisors, but also there's regional menus, there's one-off menus, there's all these different variation of menus. How do we support all the different iterations of their menus? How do we make their lives easier?
You can set up. So one of our big goals was to always simplify menu maintenance. So you could take one menu, or if you have multiple menus, of course, we can support an unlimited amount of menu. But let's take the one menu approach. You can take one menu, and then you can apply different modes to that menu. So if you have regional, certain items are available in a certain region and not another region. Let's say you're switching from Coke to Pepsi or vice versa. You have one region that's serving Pepsi products, one region that's serving Coke products, and you would set up like two separate modes for that. And then it would be the same menu, but you can have different modes, and that allows you to control what's available for the store managers and the franchisees to be able to enable or disable at their store. You also define core items that the store operators cannot disable, so you can maintain your menu integrity as a brand and say, you know what, all these items, you have to carry them, so you don't allow the store operators to actually enable or disable them. Now, a good integration with a POS, just like Dean said, is really critical, and it makes this very, very simple. It pretty much becomes a hands-off exercise that actually it takes care of itself. Like with Xenial, the POS with Chris, anytime the menu is updated, if they 86 an item in the POS, we get notified in real time, we 86 the item, and then we also 86 it on all the third parties. The same thing as to menu structure. If you have regional differences in the menu, they're all handled with the POS integration automatically for you.
And then, George, if I can add a little bit there, I know some of our other discussions I think is pretty important too with franchisees, or even in the corporate environment, is every third-party marketplace provider has a different cost structure for us. And you want to be able to mark up enough to cover those costs, but not mark it up too much where you're overpricing your item that nobody wants it. And so the ability to not only do all those things, but also within guardrails say that you can mark up this provider this amount, this provider this amount, and kind of really fine tune by marketplace. Some of those optimizations I think is really critical too. Yeah,
that's right. And of course, our system allows you to apply a different markup per provider, per item, per category, per menu, and per store. So yeah, you could say, like for DoorDash, we're going to do 25% as an example, and for Uber Eats, we're going to do 30%. So yeah, absolutely.
I love that you guys are. Go ahead, Dean.
Let's say then for a franchisee, you don't want to give them the complete latitude to do a 75% markup and kind of outprice themselves. And so being able to put those type of controls around certain user levels is really critical also to being able to manage this at scale.
Yeah, I love that you guys are talking about markup. Let's go to the next slide and talk a little bit more about that. I wanted to, I was asking my team, like, hey, show me, take all our customers and show me when people are ordering the most, and show me when people are ordering the least, right? So during the afternoon, 12 and you have 11 and 12 p.m. a.m. where you're seeing a lot of traffic, right? And then during the evening dinner rush, you're seeing it between 5 and 7. That's great. How can we make sure, when I see those two peaks, I'm like, how can we make sure we are not overloading our staff and we're managing the kitchen well and the KDS as well, and we're not overwhelming the restaurant? And then when I see all the other time slots, I'm like, okay, how can I get more? How can we make more money during that time? So that's going to be the next slide. Let's talk about maximizing profits and lowering costs. We can all relate to in terms of like what do we need to do with third-party companies, and on the next slide, we can talk about all the things we need to do to go ahead and make sure we work on off-peak strategies, we work on reducing labors and managing throughput. So with that, first question to you, George. Okay, let's talk about auto throttling. Right, auto throttling is basically managing how many orders are coming in and how they're coming in. Right. So would love for you to touch on that and how brands can take advantage of auto throttling to avoid in-store bottlenecks and reduce staff stress.
Right. So yes, order throttling, as you described, it is the number of orders coming in, but it's also the amount of sales. So when you configure order throttling, you say, okay, I'm going to give an example. For this restaurant, I don't want to receive more than, let's say, 5 orders in a 15-minute period. Or you can say $200 in sales in a 30-minute period. And once that threshold is reached, any orders that come in will be automatically pushed to the next available time slot. Now, you can also customize that by restaurant or by restaurant regions, or you can have some restaurants that can just push more food than others. And you can also customize these rules by time of day. So like you just showed, if your first party orders are very high, let's say between 5 and 7 in the evening on Friday, and you don't want to overload your kitchen with third party orders, so you can tighten the rules between 5 and 7 on Friday and Saturday, order throttling, to where you have less third-party orders coming in. And then for your off-peak hours where you're slower and you want to bring in more third-party orders, you can relax the rules, and then that'll allow more third-party orders to come in.
Got it.
Just to kind of tack on that, with the throttling, it's not just that you're allowing them to come in with that certain time period, but you're still not losing the order because you basically kind of push the lead times back to still accommodate. You don't lose those orders, but it just throttles them more appropriately for the bandwidth of the store.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went with the dollar-based prep times as well. So, we set some thresholds where if it's over a certain dollar amount, it's going to add time onto it. Because I think it's all about setting that expectations for the guest. If they understand that it's going to take 30 minutes or 20 extra minutes, they're okay with it. But if you tell them it's going to be 20 minutes and they show up and it's not ready, that's when things get a little sideways.
So yeah, that's exactly right.
Go ahead, George.
That's exactly right. And also, you set the expectation for the drivers too. So what Ben is talking about here is really not just order throttling. He's talking about prep time. So if an order comes in and it's a $250 order, right? And let's say DoorDash sends it in and says, hey, the driver's going to be there in 20 minutes to pick it up. Well, the restaurant doesn't have enough time to prepare it in 20 minutes. So what a good system should do in that case, it should push the order pickup time, let's say out by whatever Walk-Ons has programmed for prep time based on that size of order, communicate that back to DoorDash in real time as soon as they send the order. So then their driver won't be showing up in 20 minutes. Their driver will show up, let's say, in 35 minutes, and the restaurant will have the food ready and the driver's not sitting around waiting. And then also DoorDash will communicate to the guest that, hey, you can't have your order, let's say in 45 minutes, it's going to be an hour because of the size of your order.
Yeah. I mean, how do you explain this to that customer whose sauce we forgot? We need to figure out how to do that, because that'll lower the number of reviews that go online. It's a tough business we're in, guys. It's a tough business we're in. Dean, I want to talk a little bit about how else we can increase sales. Right, the market is seeing an increase in off-peak orders, and breakfast menus is growing in popularity. That's the big trend I'm seeing out there. Right, everyone has a breakfast offering now. Everyone who didn't. Does Taco Cabana leverage any off-peak strategies on third party to bring in traffic? And would love to hear about when that traffic do come in, how do you guys handle that?
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to. Taco Cabana, since 1978, we've been serving breakfast tacos, and I'd like to kind of consider us like a leader in the breakfast segment, especially in the quick serve. Breakfast has been at the Denny's and some of the other brands for a long time, but for it to be in the quick service, it wasn't until the McDonald's and the Jack in the Boxes and some of the other big guys started doing it. Now everybody's trying to capitalize on that segment. That was one that we had a lead in for a long time. So we want to protect that, that
Yeah.
segment, because we were a leader in it, and we can't let it just get eroded, because now everybody's starting to realize that there's a great segment that they've been missing. So because of that, we do a lot to incentivize our breakfast segment. Not just breakfast, but all day parts, quite honestly. And we use the tools that are typically available today that we can use, from discounting to surprise and delight, to try to get those customers to come in to those times that we really want to. And as you know, this varies from market to market, from store to store. One store may be extremely strong because it's next to a business trade area in the mornings on the week, but on the weekends it's weak because there's not a lot of traffic. It could be vice versa out in more suburban areas. So being able to, kind of target those type of opportunities to really drill in and help stores where they need them, and focus on stores that can, have some opportunity to fill in is really important. Unfortunately, with our quick service model, we've been able to keep up with peak periods so far, employing the throttling methods that George has mentioned. But there has always been that demand surge time period that we may not necessarily know that there was a capacity issue, because the system throttled it and still maintained expectations for the guests, still delivered and still fulfilled everything that we needed to, and didn't end up losing it because, in the on-premise world, where, for example, the drive-through line queue is full. Well, somebody may come up, see that line, and say, I don't have time for that, and they drive off. Well, we don't lose that customer in this case. So those are really important things for us to not only keep our market share in the breakfast segment, but continue to build in some other day parts that may not be as strong, and not necessarily even focusing system wide, but even down to the local store, and improving their sales, so that as a whole we can continue to grow every segment in every store. But kind of a funny story. I can only think of one time in our history with online ordering that we actually overwhelmed our stores.
Mhm.
And that was when we were first testing online ordering. Was it 10 years ago or more now, with George's product, actually. And what we had done is we put a free meal discount coupon out and sent it out to hundreds of people, and sure enough, they responded really quickly. So it was a good problem to have, but it really made us think about the throttling and how we focus on those discounts. You can't just say, okay, everybody comes in for a free meal, because
Yeah.
they will find out.
I mean, listen, if I had a time machine, that's the only thing I would use it for. Go back 10 years, be on site, get some free tacos. That's awesome. That's an incredible story as well. And it's so fascinating that that's the only time you've had to deal with that kind of a rush. So that just says, a great deal about your operations, your team, and the systems you guys have in place. And by the way, you guys have been a pioneer in breakfast. I understand why everyone else is investing today, right? 23% growth of breakfast orders. That's what the data shows. And then 36% growth of late night orders this year, right? I was surprised to read that one. And there's other things. You can add catering, right, as a new element, as a new group of orders. You can do drive-through. That's a big movement right now happening everywhere for folks who don't want to come in but still want the food. Bojangles is investing there. So there's so many things to do here. And I would love to move to Chris. Chris, how are your customers leveraging POS tech to reduce labor costs or drive efficiencies in store? Any tips you can give us to our operators on the line?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few different ways. Back office is probably the first and primary, right? Scheduling and making sure that your scheduling is following your forecast the most efficient way possible. That's one of the areas that we focus in on. I think the advent of, not really the advent, but the final uptake of kiosks has been another key element. And then obviously off-prem orders has taken, some of the heat. I think right now we're focused a lot on the drive-through technology. You might see behind me, I'm actually physically in a test restaurant right now.
Which one?
It's actually an empty restaurant that we rented, and we're testing our live camera-based drive-through vision technology in. So we are actively working on different ways to make the drive-through more efficient. And this particular model that we've been testing, we've hit 150 cars an hour pushing through the drive-through. So, when we're looking for, while you guys are looking for ways to potentially throttle orders, we're trying to help customers get to the point where they can fulfill the demand in their area for all the various people coming through, and try to expedite the experience of it, that, different types of orders maybe have different lanes, and we can keep track of what those things are doing and keep track of the service time, not only from like the loop where the car starts the process, but actually all the way through the experience to, perhaps the car's parked and getting out of there. We're actually keeping track of the whole story, almost making the POS system, camera aware. We'll be looking for opportunities to integrate the off-premise order model with that to the best of our ability, to make sure we're taking advantage of those, parking spaces that you're using to do curbside, and automatically letting your staff know to get those things, those orders out to the right car, and confirming that you actually deliver the right bag of food to the right car, as an example. So lots of work happening to try and improve the efficiency of the restaurant, and to maximize the throughput of the real estate and the footprint that folks are currently living in, based on the activity we've seen.
Yep. Chris, a very important question, follow-up question. Does that test kitchen or restaurant serve food?
No food here. Nope. We have we have set up a 4-lane drive-through with a merge point and an escape lane, and so it's all about testing the ability for us to track those cars around the drive-through. We're able to identify an order with a car from the camera. We're also testing pay at the menu board, pay at the order taking spot outside, and the camera is identifying when the car hits a pickup window and actually picking up the specific order that the car had, and ensuring that that's what's being requested to serve by that final employee, and handling any other payment or additional upsell items, cross-sell that may have happened during that process, and really maximizing the throughput of the whole story. So this integrates with like our digital menu boards and cameras and the POS, and we're trying to put all the pieces and parts together in one common story.
Got it. And food is on the roadmap.
Oh, sorry. To be honest, I was going to say, I thought there for a minute we were going to get to see a Xenial's close by.
Missed opportunity. Maybe he might do it. Maybe he might do it. We'll give him some time. All right, let's go to the next slide. Let's talk about pricing strategies. As we were prepping this, a lot of people requested we talk about this, we touch on this. So let's kick it off, right? In terms of pricing strategies, particularly when it comes to price uplifting and surge pricing, it is a super hot topic these days. I'll kick it off with you, Ben. What's a walk-on strategy for price uplifting and surge pricing?
Yeah, it is a hot topic, and I remember years ago, the uplift was kind of like a taboo. You didn't want the guests to know that you were uplifting, or at least in the restaurants that I helped set up when I was in the POS world. They wanted to kind of hide it in there, and now I think it's more common knowledge that people that there is an uplift, because it's a service that they're paying for. Luckily for us, both the POS and Lunchbox allow us to have multiple pricing strategies. We have many different tiers across the country, menu tiers, but we do allow the franchisees to pick the tier that they're on based off of information that we give. We have a real robust data team that provides information on other restaurants in their area. They can do comparative analysis and give informed choices for their tier, for their in-restaurant. And then it's ultimately up to the restaurant franchisee to choose what their uplift is per third party. So we don't mandate that. We're fairly new to the aggregator, with Lunchbox. So that gave us the ability to choose for our franchisees to choose that uplift themselves.
Got it. Dean, same question, but adding, how do you think about price lift? At the same time, making sure consumers don't feel like they're being price gouged. There's a thin line in between, and how do you try to stay on the right side of that line?
Yeah, that is a very fine line, because as been saying, the marketplace, there's a premium.
Mhm.
It's a premium for the exact same product that you can buy in store or first person online ordering. And so the goal is obviously to realize at least a similar profit to our in-store strategy. And or ideally, you want to convert the customer to a first person order to better provide the overall experience at a lower cost. During the whole COVID pandemic, before that, the marketplace was really not even a thing. I mean, hardly anybody was using a marketplace. I mean, they were there, they were developing, it was growing, but the pandemic just leapfrogged it forward, and it became a significant part of our business. And any restaurant that wasn't on marketplace at that time, they had to get on quickly, or they wouldn't survive. My thought was, is kind of as the pandemic came back, or I should say, receded, and the lockdowns were behind us. I really kind of saw a marketplace kind of going down, but at this point we're kind of still seeing that growth, not just even holding on, but some growth in that area. But what I'm looking at now is, as the American budget is being squeezed with the aftermath of all this pandemic and skyrocketing costs of living and projections of the economy being squeezed even more in 2024, I just really wonder how much the consumer can continue to buy the exact same product they can buy direct for a lower cost. To me, this makes the idea of the conversion to a first person or a loyalty type of customer even that much more important. Because as we know, if we're not doing it, other brands are doing it, and they're going to capture these customers, and we're not going to convert them, and we're not going to have them.
Yeah.
And this is a much different situation than like the Amazon marketplace, the product marketplace. This is an area where customers can go online, get even more product choice than they can locally. They can get it even cheaper than they can get it locally. They can have it delivered to their door even cheaper than they can go buy it in a brick and mortar store. It totally makes sense. But in the marketplace, it comes at a premium.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how this next year plays out, and how much the marketplaces really keep that hold on their share.
Yeah, and for us, with the introduction of the aggregator, now we have visibility into what each franchisee is uplifting, and we can do some analysis and start giving some poignant direction to them. Like some direction that has data driven decision, instead of just saying, oh, we think you should do this amount or this amount. We can say, okay, the best performing restaurants are uplifting this much, and so instead of just some random number, we'll have data behind it. Yeah.
Ben, as you tell your franchisees, hey, like this is our recommendation on increasing prices, what is the general reaction you see from franchises? Is there a mixed bag, or do you see a pattern there?
Yeah, I think there's a mix. Some want to make up for other areas where they may be losing some money, so they want to charge a little more here. But for the most part, when our data team gives them the data behind the whys of what we recommend, they tend to stick with that. But there are some sophisticated operators out there that have been doing it for a long time and have their method of how they want to decide on their pricing tier and go with that.
Yeah, I mean that shows an incredible level of trust in terms of how they view the corporate office. So kudos to you guys. Next question for Chris: how do you recommend brands properly reconcile price uplift? How should brands set up their menus in the POS to properly handle price uplifts? Like basically price uplifts, everything we've talked about right now. How can we make sure accounting sees it and makes sense of it, basically?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I mean, from my viewpoint, we encourage people to think about pricing items as though they're dynamic in all cases. And so we allow for, like I mentioned, order source pricing and destination-based pricing to allow you to change where price can fluctuate and how it works. Obviously, order source pricing is pretty critical for the off-premise delivery third-party application set, where we see lots of folks modify that to try and figure out how to cover those additional costs related to those third-party orders. And so, from our viewpoint, we want you to have the tools in your toolbox to set the price that makes sense in the way that you're selling an item when you sell it, whether that's a modifier of a sub modifier, or like a combo that may include other combo items. So if you like a family meal or things like that, you have the ability to reprice based on either the items that it's ordered with or the way it's ordered. And then on the reporting side, the ability to look at the average price something sold at from a SKU level, and then the individual price. One of the other things that we do and pride ourselves on is, order injection being a high number for us, because we accept whatever price an integrator is sold it at. So if you guys send us the wrong price, perhaps you have the wrong menu, whatever may not be working functionally, or there was an adjustment made in another system which drove a different outcome for pricing, we're going to accept that, and we're going to mark that item sold at that price and continue to take the order and make sure the guest is satisfied, while at the same time providing reporting as to what the various items were sold at and for what reasons.
Yeah, if I can explain this to folks who are not, let's say, as technical, on 100 order going to the POS, all 100 is not being ingested, right? Like 98%, because something is happening with this point, 2, 3, 4%, where it doesn't match, and those orders are getting rejected. So there's a lot of things happening operationally behind the scenes on, do we call the customer? Do we show them an error? Do we ask them to do X or Y and Z? So there's a lot of nuances here. So Chris, what you mentioned is just so important for operators, because we want to get as many orders as possible.
Yeah, well, we think this is a key differentiator. I mean, at least for us, if I can do a little selling, we don't reject orders for bad taxes and bad pricing. We accept whatever it is that you did and provide reporting to the differences back to our customers, so that, again, the paramount experience for us is the guest experience. We want to get that order in. So you'll find that our order injection success rates, for integrators is, 100%, assuming that, the integration has been done well, has been properly. And we really pride ourselves on that. It's an important element of our strategy.
We love that, and that is such an important feature. You're not selling at all. We all need that. And then question for you, George. George, we heard Chris say we want you to view your pricing as dynamic. Question for you. We do actually have dynamic pricing. It's one of our very important features. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how operators can leverage that? If you unmute yourself, we're at number 4. One more and it's going to cost us a pretty penny. One more and we're out.
Okay. All right. We can vary the pricing based on the time of day, to where during your busy times, then the price will automatically go up, and you can set those settings to where, I guess you could say, just like Uber charges you more when they're very busy, you can do the same thing with your menu in Lunchbox, and then you can set where what the limits are, and then the brand can control that to make sure that the franchisees aren't overdoing it and all that. Just like what Ben mentioned earlier, you can set. We don't just allow the franchisees or the store managers to say, okay, I want to raise the price this much when we're busy. It's controlled by the brand. So you make sure somebody's not saying, oh, we're going to double the price at 5:00 on Friday. We're going to double the price. You actually, the brand can control the possibilities, I guess you could say. Yes.
Got it. Okay. All right. So let's go to the next slide. Let's talk about third-party conversion a little bit, right? Because there's other ways to maximize profit, and that way is moving some of your guests over from third-party to your own system. You can't move everyone over, right? Those marketplace apps are fantastic. They're a discovery channel. They're channels where, especially when you're opening restaurants in new markets. Ben will touch on that, right? But you want to move some of the loyalists over, and that is a important conversation operators everywhere is having. Right, so let's have that conversation together. Ben, how does Walk-On actively engage third-party guests to order from his first-party channels? Your amazing new app, everyone should download it if you haven't, and your amazing new website.
Sure. So, of course, we love our third-party delivery partners. I mean, they are our boots on the ground. They are our marketing department when we're moving into a new area, especially when we don't have the name recognition. So utilizing them in the beginning is critical. But there has to be a balance. You want to convert some of those to your first party for profitability reasons, for guest experience, for them to save a few bucks here and there. A couple of things we do, we have bag stuffers that we offer that encourage people to download the app. We utilize social media to encourage the app download as well. Our loyalty program that we recently launched, we utilize that to entice guests to order first party so that they can gain points and utilize their rewards, you know, spend some money and get some free items. So, you know, I think that's important. I kind of touched on this earlier about, you know, that hiding of the uplift. Well, now we put the receipt on the bag that shows the uplift on it. So that's another thing that I guess can look at.
Fascinating.
You know, for a long time, that was kind of the taboo thing. You didn't put the receipt. You might put the bag chit or something like that, but now we're putting the receipt in the bag, so they can see that number and see what they can save by downloading the app and ordering first party.
Yeah. We have to add a game to your to the app soon, Ben. That, you know, like get more points playing the game. We need to get George to make it. George, we're just adding feature requests live on stage. Hope you don't mind. Anytime in Q1 if you have some time for us.
Yeah. We're also looking at launching first party delivery. So delivery through our app, but utilizing the DoorDash drive. So, you know, I think that'll get us some conversions as well. Because, you know, there are people who at the end of the day, they want it to be delivered to them. So whether they're going to utilize our app or utilize their favorite third-party app, they're going to use it. So
we do.
Ben, I think that's great. Honestly, like if you think about that scenario, they go to the marketplace, they're going to pay a premium for something they go first party, but in the end, it's the same driver taking it to them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, so a quick interruption. Chris has to leave. So Chris, we'll see you. Good luck with the drive-through tech. Let us know when it's ready so we can integrate it and give it to all our customers. So we'll see you soon. Thank you so much for your time. We'll continue the rest of the webinar. We have another, let's say 10, 15 minutes to go.
Thank you, guys. It was nice to be here.
Chris. Thank you. Dean, question for you, and we talked about this. Go ahead, George.
Can I comment on the conversion to the first party ordering?
No one's here to hear me. Absolutely, go ahead.
All right, so converting to the orders to first party, and then still utilizing, let's say, DoorDash or even Uber Eats to actually do the delivery, saves you, of course, the discount or the fees, I should say, that you have to pay them, and then the actual delivery fee you can just pass that on to the guest, so the guest can actually pay the delivery fee. So it doesn't really end up costing the restaurant anything, and then the guest can still get their the food delivered, and even with the delivery charge, they're going to end up paying less, with that when you take out the 25% or the 30% or whatever it is that we're uplifting because of the marketplace.
Yeah. Dean, something that happens a lot with third-party companies that I'm wondering, I would love to get your take. When a customer is unhappy in store, you can fix it. When a customer is upset with your app, you have data, you can call them, email them. That's a little bit harder on third-party platforms. I'd love to understand what technology Taco Cabana uses to protect, your digital reputation, and not do unnecessary refunds, because there's a layer in between. It's the third-party companies. While they're amazing, that part is a little bit more difficult. Would love to hear your thoughts there.
Yeah, this is a critical area if you want to maintain your profitability in these marketplaces. Like we were saying, we're kind of joking about the salsa, but 100%. I've seen orders go full 100% refund because there was no napkin in the order, right? As an example, and a lot of times, there are cases where there might be some abuse of that by the customers that they know that they can call in and say, "Hey, I didn't get my toothpick, and I'm really upset about it." And I think some of the marketplaces are doing a little bit better job now, where they actually have to go in and say specifically what item was not right, and they'll refund that one item. But that still doesn't engage the customer, as far as recovery. It's really just kind of placating them at the time and giving them some money back. So there's still kind of a refund situation going on, as opposed to an opportunity to really fix it and do the guest interaction and really, drive a loyalty with them because of that. Instead of it being an issue, turn it into the opportunity, right? But on the whole ecosphere, we've hired third parties to help us focus on the chargebacks, the refunds, and the whole digital reputation side of it. There are a couple out there that specialize in this area and that do great jobs. They aggregate the information from the third-party marketplaces, from our POS. They file responses on our behalf. They work guest recovery on our behalf. And so that really helps a lot in reducing that margin erosion from using marketplaces that we pretty much have to these days.
Yeah.
But then there's also other opportunities that we're testing right now also, and starting to look at things like AI-based cameras on the pickup area so that we can verify when that order was picked up, the number of bags they took with them, if they had that drink with them when they left, as well as proof of when they actually picked it up and that they did fulfill it. And so, those things are becoming more and more important, just to maintain that profitability and to also keep that customer for the next order.
Got it. That's amazing. The AI tech you just mentioned. That sounds super cool. If we had that during my time, they would watch me steal fries. I'm happy they did not have that when I was a restaurant guy behind the table, if you will. All right, next slide, and we're approaching the end. It's Q&A after this, so really excited to jump into Q&A. Just open-ended question, Dean first, then Ben. Choosing your partner, what should operators here consider as they go? Choose their partners, their aggregation partners. It's a big decision. It's as important as POS in many ways.
Yeah, I agree. It's an important part of our business, as much as the POS from a technology perspective. Without all these tools, and we just can't scale and be enterprise without them. And so you just can't just look for any partner. They really have to be able to support everything that we've talked about, and then some. That's just kind of the cost of entry to me. That's just the first qualifier. What's even more important to me is a partner that we can grow and evolve with. Mm-hmm. There's things that are going to happen tomorrow that we don't know about. Mm-hmm. And in order to prepare for it and react and adjust and thrive in that kind of an environment where we just have so many unknowns, it's critical to have a partner that'll take that path with you. And even if you've got like a one-off situation that's willing to go to bat and do some development to help you over that hurdle, those are kind of things that we look for in a partner to help drive this change and be successful in the future.
Yeah. Ben, to you, and Ben, how important is it to make sure you have George's cell phone number? Because I know you have it.
It's very important. Not so much anymore. I mean, he talked earlier about the unlimited menus. I think there was a time that we thought we might have pushed that limit with us, but the team got in there and went to bat for us. And that's the important part. It's not about everything going right. Things going right is great. But when things go bad, how that partner responds, I think, is critical. Not hiding from your shortcomings and jumping in there and figuring out solutions. Because there are going to be things that come up. It's not going to always work perfectly. It's technology. It works great until it doesn't. And so choosing that partner that not only will listen to your needs, but respond to them. I think that's the critical thing.
So Ben, you don't text George anymore as much, but Dean, that's not true for you, right? You're still, you guys are still heavy.
We still have lots of conversations, and it's not every company you can text the CTO and
Mm-hmm.
Expect that you're going to get that level of attention. So that's worth a lot to me.
Yeah. Listen, I've offered you my number. You just never text me. If I could code.
When George stops responding, I'm going to start texting.
I don't think that will ever happen. All right. That was
too many years.
Yeah. No, that was such a fun conversation. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, George. Thank you, Chris, who had to jump off. Let's do some Q&A. I have some amazing questions that have come up. So I'll tackle 3 or maybe we do 3, 4 of them, guys. How do you guys feel about that? Yeah. Good. All right, let's do it. Let's do this one. This is George. This one's for you. Can we use our in-store POS menu for third party, or do we need to create a separate menu?
No, you can actually, yes, you can definitely use your in-store menu. When I talked about simplifying menu maintenance earlier, that was definitely one of our goals, to where you can just take the same menu that you're using in-store for your in-store operations and use that for your third party as well. And then you can, if you want to make any adjustments to it before it's sent to the third parties, you can make those adjustments in Lunchbox.
Love it. A question for you, Dean. What AI company are you using? People want to know.
For the refunds or for the
refunds?
For the refunds, yeah. The one we've selected is called DeliverSense.
DeliverSense. Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
We've had really good success with them.
Amazing. Okay, a question. I don't know who this is for, but let's try it together. We have multiple concepts that we run from one brick and mortar and only one POS. What's the recommended way to handle that? Maybe George, you go first, and if Dean and Ben want to jump in.
Okay. Yeah. So That's going to depend on who you're using as your third-party aggregator. So I'm just going to talk about how we recommend you do it, let's say in Lunchbox. So in Lunchbox, what we would do we do have some clients doing that, by the way, is you would set up what's called a virtual restaurant. It's really the same restaurant, but it's a virtual restaurant with a separate menu that gets published to the third parties and appears as a completely separate entity. But when orders come in, they go to the same restaurant.
Yeah. Ben, did you want to add something?
Did you? That was clear enough? Yeah.
That's clear enough. That's how you can have 10, 20 restaurants out of one POS. And we've heard stories about that. Ben, anything you want to add there? I was looking at
you. Unfortunately, when I was in the POS world, ghost kitchens, that wasn't really a thing. That kind of came about during the pandemic. And I really don't have any input on that.
Got it. All right. Let's go ahead and do one more question. Let's do this one. How do we hide certain items in our menu from being available on third-party marketplaces?
I can take that one too, if you'd like. Yes?
Go ahead.
Okay. So it's easy to do that. But when we ingest the menu in from your point of sale, you can actually in the admin UI, you can specify if you want to hide items or even categories completely from going to the third-party marketplaces. You can even say, you know what, I want this dish or sandwich to go to Uber Eats, but not to Grubhub or not to DoorDash or vice versa. So you have full control as to what's hidden and what shows up on which marketplace.
Yeah, for us, we just created two separate menus. It's all the same menu items. But they ingest they have an in-restaurant menu that they ingest for loyalty for us. And then there's an online menu that we put just the items that we want online. We put it in that menu, and that's the one that they ingest for the online and third-party aggregators.
Love that. Let's do one more let's do one more. How do operators cover their costs as 20% uplift is not enough to get the same margins, or and still makes it a unprofitable endeavor? Dean, you want to touch on this? I feel like you've talked about this a little bit.
I mean, that's a tough call, because if you're not making 20% uplift profitable, then you've got to have some really tight margins, before that even starts. And so, one of the obvious is obviously trying to get a national contract or try and negotiate better terms, which, they're always willing to negotiate, but you got to catch them when they really want to negotiate, obviously. So, that's one area. There's others, that we've seen from packaging materials and things like that, but you're all talking penny profits, right? Because the one thing you don't want to compromise is the quality of the food.
Right.
And that's like kind of the holy grail of what people are coming to you for is the food itself. So, I mean, the one thing I would say is I've seen other restaurants do 30%, 35%. It's not unheard of. You need to be profitable. And if you're, at that close a margin, you may need a price, you may take pricing on your in-house menu or your brick and mortar menu a little bit, just so that it, how it kind of helps offset that cost if you need to. And then it also helps boost the uplift, obviously, when you get to marketplace. That's probably without really diving into it and really thinking it through, probably what I would say makes the most sense off the top.
Now, George, I know we utilize a single percentage, but do y'all have the ability to do mixed, like you have a percentage uplift, and then on certain items you can go in and tag and create the price you want for the third party?
Yes. Yes, exactly. So you could say, let's say we're going to do a default uplift of 20% for DoorDash. Mm-hmm. And then on certain items, you can go in and say, this item, I want to add an additional $1, or you can also say, I want to add an additional 5% on this item or this category of items. So yeah.
I think that's a great point, because like the drinks and the chips and some of those other items where they're not as high a price, it's an easier, fill to go ahead and throw the $1 there, or somewhere where, you're going to get the sandwich or you're going to get the taco combo. But if you can add on something that they're going to grab, and the $1 is more acceptable than, say, a 20% on a $10 item, that certainly helps to blend it.
I would argue you shouldn't have. You should look at the 20% of your menu that is the most unprofitable and not have it online at all. right? I would argue you shouldn't have that on your menu even for dine-in, but that's a different conversation, right? So with that being said, I wanted to thank everyone. I wanted to thank George, my partner in crime, my technical partner in crime, who receives more texts than myself, and has again, Dean. My text remains on if you ever want to ping me. Thank you, Dean from Taco Cabana, for all your wealth of knowledge. Ben Broussard from Walk-Ons. Please download their app. It's super cool. And the Taco Cabana app. And then obviously Christopher Ken from Xenial, who have left us incredible conversation about order management, about menu management, price uplift, and everything else in between. I just want to thank you guys for being so generous with your time and so generous with your information. This was not a surface level conversation. This was a conversation designed only for other operators who are going through a scale, going through similar pain points, and that's what we wanted to provide. I hope people enjoyed it and learned from it, and we're going to post it online so it can live there out there in the internet for eternity. But thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Dean. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, George.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.